Yay! I think we're live. Can you see me?
I can.
Okay, cool. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our live stream tonight for our Rise Together Resilience series. Our special guest tonight is Ryan Hampton, who I'm incredibly excited to have on the series, or part of our series. As you may know, or maybe you don't know, we decided to launch this series 5 weeks ago. We're actually on our 5th week, and in part coinciding with our Rise Together Strong fundraiser. And so we decided as an organization, what better way to revive Rise Together and reconnect and rebuild our community and reconnect with our community by connecting with other storytellers, change makers, advocates in the mental health and substance use space, to not only share their stories and share how they've remained resilient over this last year, but also how you can do the same. And hopefully you're able to take away some different tools and skills that we share on this conversation tonight. And just be sure to stay tuned at the end, because we're going to be doing our giveaway. So Ryan is graciously giving away one of his books in support of our fundraiser, so we can continue to raise money, so we can continue to support youth prevention programs that Rise Together has to offer. So thank you so much for joining us, or maybe you're watching this later. Either way, we greatly appreciate your support in this process, and appreciate you, Ryan, for being here with us tonight.
Well, I appreciate you even more. So thank you for everything you do.
Yes, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is, well, I know it's been an incredibly difficult year for everyone. And I have really, really enjoyed looking at the positive side of things and looking at like what we've done to overcome challenges and how we have been able to get to where we are today, right? And so I appreciate that, because I know, well, it's been a hard year. We'll say that.
Yeah,
so.
I was actually last night I was making some notes for some stuff that I want to talk about in the next couple of weeks, and Gavin came up in my notes, so I know what an incredibly difficult year it's been for you and Anthony and your families, but I also have been truly just, inspired and blown away with what you both are doing and continue to do. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And it has been in part due to our community, lifting us up, inspiring us, encouraging us, answering the phone when we call, sending messages, checking in on us. We have been incredibly blessed with a great community to be able to support us over this last year. And if I were to share, what's helped me remain resilient, that would be a huge part of it. Is what has helped me get to where I am today, to even show up and have, even somewhat maybe difficult conversations with others, and to learn and to listen and to hear, how others have gotten through different things. I'm learning so much, and so I'm sure, many others who are part of this conversation tonight will learn as well. So yeah, thank you. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about who you are and what you do, and a little bit of your story.
Well, thank you. And I'll before I jump into that though, I think what you've said, there's a follow-up to that, and it's that, who are we and what are we doing if what we're not doing isn't building community, right? Because I think that's really at the crux, at the heart, at the nexus of everything that we do and that we fight for and that we advocate for, is really to build this community that welcomes us and that can lift us up when we can't lift ourselves up, right? Because we can't do anything alone or have it this go it alone strategy, whether it's in advocacy, whether it's in grief, whether it's in celebration, family. Everything we do needs community. And if we can accomplish, one thing, it's that we should continue building these communities. We should continue building resilient communities. And that's why I'm so proud to support Rise Together and everything that you do. And I can remember, you asked me to introduce myself and my story. A big part of my story was that kind of get together that we had way back when in, you know, freezing wherever we were, Wisconsin, I think. It was like my first trip out there ever years ago, and had an initial discussion around what is it that Rise Together could be. I mean, that was when I was like baby advocate. I'm still baby advocate, but like I was wee baby, like infant advocate. And you and Anthony and your team like welcomed me in and listened to me, and really, you know, together, all of us together, you know, helped to create something that has become so special for so many. So thank you. And thank you for no matter what, right? Like no matter what, your goal and your focus has always remained on building community. And I think people sometimes get veered off that course, right? But we're never going to be successful if we don't make this large tent community. So thank you for that. Who I am, so I'm Ryan. I'm an author, I'm an advocate, I'm a person in recovery, I'm a fiance, I'm a voter. You know, I like to write, I'm a dog lover. I'm wearing my shirt today, actually. Besides you, the only other people I'm talking to are dogs today. You know, and recovery has just given me a second shot at life, right? Wasn't always the story for me. I'm coming up on 7 years in my own recovery, and I'm grateful to be on this journey today because I had a community that supported me. I had a community that lifted me up. When I couldn't lift myself up, I had access to Medicaid, which saved my life when I needed treatment. I had access to housing, kind of stumbled into qualified housing. And in the beginning, you know, I didn't, my recovery date, what I claim as my recovery date is February 2nd, 2015. But I didn't wake up on February 3rd, 2015 saying, oh, I want to go start a nonprofit. Oh, I want to, you know, write a book, or I want to get into this advocacy space. I didn't want to talk about addiction. I didn't want to talk about recovery. I didn't want to let anybody know that I lived in sober living. My mother didn't want anybody to know. Like, we were just like super silent about the whole thing. And quite frankly, in the first, you know, year or so of my recovery, I drove Uber, right? And lived on, you know, $70 a week extra that I made, you know, to get some food in my stomach, and, you know, be able to pay my bills and all these other things. Like I didn't have much, I didn't need much. And I didn't even know what advocacy or activism, I didn't even know it existed in the recovery space. I didn't know that people did do things like, you know, Rise Together. I didn't know people did things like have nonprofits where they go work on legislation. I didn't know anything about prevention. Like, the only education I had about prevention was literally when I was in, you know, elementary and middle school. And I remember officers coming in and teaching, you know, giving us coloring books, like with, you know, pictures of like awful pictures of things that like we would like color in and, you know, talk about and discuss. Like, I didn't know what was out there. And I think for many of us, at least I could speak for myself, my journey to where I'm at today was completely accidental. All right. I didn't plan on any of this. It was an accident. It was a set of circumstances that led me to where I'm at today. Even though I did find myself homeless with no resources and begging for help, and, you know, by a stroke of luck in Medicaid, getting into treatment, even that story wasn't enough to propel me to do the work that I do today. It was really a set of circumstances when I lived in a recovery home, when I, like you and Anthony and so many others, you know, started losing people really close to me, and started, you know, examining why, you know, and that question why led me to a tremendous amount of grief, but anger that really moved me into action. And where I'm at today is the result of many smaller actions over the last 7 years that really started with me sitting on the deck of that sober living home after losing a friend of mine, my friend Nick, and subsequently my friend Greg, and saying this didn't have to happen, right? They were actively seeking help. They had been turned away from hospitals. They were kicked out of the house. I mean, there was just so many things that could have not happened, right? That may have been led to a different version of what their story could have been, but that wasn't the case. And started connecting with you and Anthony, and finding other people around the country who were doing these things and telling, and they were, at the heart of it, they were community builders, but they were also storytellers, you know, because I found my way into advocacy through storytelling, not just my storytelling, but others' storytelling, sharing with me what could be possible, what we could do together. And, you know, the rest is kind of history, right? I took a trip in 2016 around the country, traveled all around, and, you know, 22 states over 30 days, and traveled, you know, 10,000 something miles, and met all these people that I didn't know existed that were talking about this out loud, and came home and started futzing around on Facebook with something that I called the Voices Project at the time. That eventually turned into a nonprofit, you know, in 2018. And just, I think where I'm at today is a result of just staying very true to what the original purpose of Voices Project was, which is, you know, staying in my lane with my own principles, but lifting up people and other voices as much as possible. All right. I think the ultimate goal of the work that I now do at Voices Project and the Recovery Advocacy Project is to build more organizers, build more leaders. Like, hopefully there will be people who will do huge things that I couldn't even think of or fathom, right, in the next several years. And hopefully that if I can do some work now just to provide them with some tactics or tools or whatever it is that they need, I think I've done my job, right? And that's what I want to do. So that's a little bit about who I am. And to say, you know, the name of your project, the Resilience Project, like, I mean, the resiliency series, like you couldn't think of a better term right now. I mean, everything that we're going through, not just in recovery and with the uptick in overdose numbers and all the work we have to do, but this country as a whole, right? Like, we need resiliency now more than ever, you know, more than ever that we've seen in decades, right? Yeah. So I think recovery, I think the principles of recovery, I think the things that we all grew up in recovery, like I say I grew up in recovery because I did, those principles are needed by this country now more than ever. And I think that folks in recovery are well poised to lead the way.
Yes, I love that, and agree. It's so necessary and needed. And I really love when you shared how you turned your anger into action and into something, you know, being able to use like your platform for good, right? And to use your voice for good, which is what we, you know, named this series or this episode or whatever you want to call it with you. Because I think to be able to channel things that we have experienced or things that we have gone through, to be able to use our experience and to be able to take that into the community and to, you know, build community and to use our voices for good and to help create change and, you know, to build up resiliency for our community is key. It's so important. And I just think it's really inspiring, you know, to be able to watch you and be able to, you know, how you used and have used your platform over the last few years and how it's just grown, you know, so much, where so many people too then also feel like they are being heard, you know, and that they are being seen, you know, and that our voices do matter. And so I just, you know, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the platform you've created.
Well, there's two things that I would say. One is, I actually believe for many of us, you know, they say that acceptance is the final, you know, phase of grief, right? I actually believe that for many of us, the final phase of that, after there's another step after acceptance, which is action, right? Because I think many of us, once going through the grieving process, find a lot of solace in taking an action to do better and do more, right? And be better for our communities, be better for our families, be better for ourselves, right? Be better for those that we love and those around us and our friends, and be better for just the purpose and the cause in general. So I think there's that step for many of us, right? That after that acceptance of grief, we get into action. And I know that was my story, you know, and that's why That's why I did what I do now. And I would also say the other special sauce for what I found for me is, and sometimes I regret it, but I made a commitment to myself several years ago, and it's like a saying, to say yes more, right? Like I like to just say yes more. And that's not yes to like me. It's that when others ask things of me, right, that I know are the right, that doesn't mean I say yes to like things I don't believe in, you know what I mean? But if there's like genuinely somebody asking me to do something for them or help them or guide them, or, you know, either one-to-one or in a group or whatnot, if I can make it happen, or if I can do it and it's physically possible, then I should say yes, because I also need to recognize that a lot of people said yes to me, right, early in my recovery and my journey, and it's my duty to say yes, to pay that forward. And I found that to be really an incredible experience, right? And I think it's part of building that authentic community and being there for each other. Because I think this last year has been, you know, I mean, there's never been a better example of like why we need to be there for each other and why we need to create that connection, even if it's just like this, you know. I think without connection, there is no community, you know?
Yeah, for real. It's interesting that you say that, because I hear so often lately that so many people are trying to learn how to say no. And I do like I mean, you know, saying things to no, like if you're doing too much, like I understand, but I do like the idea of, you know, yes, how can I help though? Or how can I be of service, or, you know, support in some way?
Well, there's a fine line though, because there's a fine line between like self-care and taking care of yourself and not doing too much, and also being able to say yes. So like, just because I say, and I think me and you, and I've gone through this with like even you and Anthony before, it's like I may not say yes today, which means you may ask me something, I may say yes, but it's going to be in like a month, and we need to figure, you know what I mean? Like, but the answer is yes, and let's just figure it out. And like, I will pace myself, you know, to be able to stick to my word. But it's like, you know, I'm also like super OCD, like schedule freak. So it's like, yes, and let's get it on the calendar. You know what I mean? That's usually what I'll say. So
let's make a plan.
Yeah, let's make a plan. Yeah.
I love
Sometimes
that.
when people reach out though, and they're like, I need you to do something like right now, I'm like, but I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, as a general principle, I have learned to figure out a way to say yes more.
Yeah, I love that. So just to transition into what has helped you more specifically over this last year. So what has helped you to remain resilient through these challenging times over this last year?
Gosh, I mean, it's been, I've to be completely honest, like it's been one of the most challenging years of certainly in the last, you know, 6.5 years of recovery for me, but as long as I can remember, you know, because everything that I, you know, that keeps me going was kind of stripped away, right? So it's like, you know, it's hard to see people at all, right? I still haven't seen my mother, you know, since the pandemic began. I haven't seen my sisters, you know, my friends, family, community members, recovery support meetings, things that bring me joy. You know, everybody knows I love Broadway musicals. Broadway shut down, theater shut down, live music shut down. You know, I mean, love Disney, right? Like resorted to watching like Disney fireworks on repeat for the holidays on like YouTube and things like that. And it brought me a lot of sadness. And I think it was probably the most challenging year for me in terms of my recovery. But I did get through it, right? How did I get through it? Was just by daily practice, honestly, of taking care of myself and believing that the end was near. And I still believe that. Like, I think I just intrinsically, you know, in the last couple of years have just, I have this response to trauma, or response to situations like COVID and the shutdowns and everything else, that, okay, this is temporary, but it will get better, and you just need to hang on. right? So like that thought of just knowing that I could get through this was something that I dug into every single day. I would wake up and be like, okay, well, we're one day closer, you know, and I still do it today. You know, I monitor vaccine rates and I monitor what's going on. I'm like, things are getting better, you know, slowly things are opening up, you know, communities coming back together. You know, we knew that we would get to a time where it'd be like this, but I honestly think that it was because of my journey too, that has allowed me to think that way, you know, and be a little bit more positive, because things have been a lot worse for me, you know, personally, and I've been in worse situations. Now, in terms of like material things, how did I do it? Well, I have the love of my life, Sean. Hopefully he sees this. I love you, Sean.
We love you,
You
Sean.
know, and having Sean, I don't know what I would do without Sean, especially in this last year. You know, there's a rule in our house: no two of us can be like really upset or down at the same time. It happens very rare, so one can always lift the other one up. Music was also a huge part for me. I you know, was able to listen to my favorite tunes and spent plenty of hours, you know, as we were like shut down, to just, you know, tune out and get into another place. And I'll say faith, you know, you can't get through things like this without faith, whatever that faith is in. But I have an extraordinary amount of faith, and I think the agency for that comes from my mom. And I'm grateful, because that has been one big tool for me.
That's so great. I love that. Those are, I mean, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge, like, thank you for sharing. I think it's incredibly important, yet can be so difficult to believe that the end is near, or that things are going to get better. I think like when you're in the middle, like the messy middle, right? And so I think that is such a good reminder, I think, for so many of us, to remember that, you know, not every day is going to be a hard day. And that, you know, when we're able to take it one day at a time and not get so focused on, you know, what's to come or what's next or where we're going or what's happening, but just to really stay like present and in the moment.
That one day at a time thing is real. Like, I find myself preaching that sometimes to like even my mother these days. I'm like, Mom, it's like, because I can get so focused in the future, and I'm like, there's only so much you can do today.
Yeah.
You know, and you just have to focus on like where your feet are today and what you can do today about what's happening today, you know. And tomorrow, and oftentimes I've found, you know, another big thing for me too is like, you know, sleep is a big deal. You know, I've found that when I'm agitated and when things are feeling like the end of the world, like not making any major decisions and just going to bed, you know, and waking up the next morning and just starting over, you know, that's been a big tool in the tool belt as well.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Because sometimes things can feel like the end of the world when they're really not the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah. I have certainly, I felt that. I mean, several weeks ago, it was just like, oh man, so many feelings of anxiousness and worry and thinking about what, you know, is to come or what's next, or, you know, even launching the series or a fundraiser, an event, and like planning and all these things. And it's just like, oh no, like what, you know, what is going to happen? And again, like I had to do the same, just consistently come back to, well, where am I at right now, today? And just focusing on that. And same with my family too, I think, because it's easy to, you know, worry about what's to come. And it's natural.
Well, and I think another big piece of like resiliency too for me is gratitude. So it's like you can take a pause and just think about how grateful you are for the little things in life, or the relationships you have, or the direction you're going in, or for just having another day, getting through another day. Like, you can find gratitude in those things and just take a deep breath, and it does make it better. It does make it better. Like perception, you know, gratitude and perception are so intertwined.
Yeah, 100%. I was I'm taking a well-being course right now, or the science of well-being, and it is like scientifically proven through data that when you focus on positives and you focus on gratitude, it does help shift your brain to a more positive mindset and more focused in the present moment versus, you know, kind of all over the place. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm assuming, I mean, it's helpful for me. It's always a good reminder too on, you know, what I can do in certain moments, and I'm sure helpful, you know, for others who are listening today. So there was something that you shared just about, you know, in the moment of maybe some people are in a space where they are ready to take action. Maybe they're interested in wanting to learn more on what that could look like. I know it's one thing, you know, part I think of being resilient, like you said, is taking action and continuing to do something about it. You know, especially I really enjoyed the piece that you shared about grieving. I think the last part of, you know, wanting to change or wanting to make change or wanting to, you know, do something for good. I would love for you to share just a little bit more about what mobilized recovery looks like, and what it looks like for, you know, maybe individuals who are interested in advocating around recovery. Yeah.
So I would say mobilized recovery was a project, kind of I'll go back up a little bit. So I believe that people in the recovery space, many of us, like, you know, at our heart, like, we're also creators. I've met so many creators in recovery, right? Like, I mean, like, it just seems like everybody's creating, you know, and creating new things and better things and bigger things and exciting things and innovations. And, you know, Mobilize was really an attempt 3 years ago when we started, or 2 years ago, when it was an idea 2.5 years ago, and then it came to fruition 2 years ago. It's about that, answering that question, right? Because I remember early on for me, it was like, where do I go? What do I do? How do I start? Who are my peers? Who are my people? What's my community? You know, how do I tell my story? How do I organize my community? Who are my allies? How do I raise dollars? How do I, you know, use Facebook to raise money? How do I, like, I had a million different questions. I had nowhere to go. And so I thought, how do we really pull this convening or this creation together where we can bring all these people together who have similar questions and answer them, right? And kind of help give people a roadmap coming out of it for not how they could join one specific organization, but hopefully how they could create their own, you know, how they can become creators and leaders and organizers and the list is on. And that's how Mobilize Recovery was born. And it's really turned into something that I could have never thought of from day one. You know, I mean, it's beautiful just seeing so many people going out and creating and starting organizations and engaging in their communities and passing new recovery kind of forward thinking legislation and telling their stories for the first time, and that light goes on that they want to do more. I mean, and I think above all else that they are valued, important change makers in their communities, right? And when people can like grab a hold of that agency that they have, right? And like that onion starts to peel back and they're blossoming and seeing that, you know, that's what Mobilize is about. And it's been the mission of it's constantly changing and formulating because it doesn't belong to me. It doesn't really even belong to the Voices Project. It belongs to the community, right? It is what we respond to what the community needs. And that's how I feel like I could be of best value and we could be of best value of bringing that event together every year. Now, it's a lot of work. Can't wait till I'm super excited. It's happening in a couple of weeks, but I'm in the thick of it right now. And I'm also looking forward to the day that it's over so we could start thinking about next year, because that's just how my brain goes. But I'm really, really excited. I'm really, really excited about just the diversity in it and the different, the other part of Mobilize that I thought was important was to bring people together who haven't necessarily had the same, been on the same page with issues, because I'm a big believer in consensus and, people getting to know each other. I've seen where, people maybe they've never met and they argue on social media about, means to get to a recovery get to a space where recovery is available to all, but they disagree on the means of how to get there, but they agree that we need to end overdose deaths, and they've never met. And I'm like, well, I know for one thing, I could argue with somebody all day long on Facebook. When I actually get to meet them, though, and sit down, it changes the whole dynamic, and we actually might end up working together. So I thought that it was a good idea to get people, more face to face, rather than just knowing each other through comments, which is nice, but like, I think we build more unity when we bring people together like that.
Yeah, I agree. I cannot wait to see the community that you're bringing together this year. And I think it is so important. And I'm not going to speak for the entire recovery community, but who I know who have been able to be a part of it and participate and to hear how they feel incredibly valued, and that their voices are being heard, and to feel like they are a part of something bigger, and that they are helping to create change for the future. And it's been incredible to watch, to see it all grow, and to see, people coming together to create change together has just been incredibly, powerful and impactful. So thank you for sharing tonight. Thank you for
Absolutely.
the work that you're doing. I can't wait to see, what happens at the event. There's going to be awesome live streams with, I don't know, maybe some cool artists and musicians and, just some cool stuff going on. Right now, if anybody that is watching, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have any questions for Ryan, I am going to draw the name for the winner of his book. And so you got a moment. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them now. Otherwise, I'm going to do my random name picker.
Let's hear it.
Right? Little drum roll. And will you tell them, Ryan, real quick, a little bit of what your book is?
Which one?
Well, I assume it could only be the other one.
American Fix?
Yeah, unless it could be the other one, but I don't think it can be that one. Right.
American Fix. Well, I mean, American Fix is really my journey into advocacy, and the first part of it is about that, but the rest, like good 2/3 of it, are about other people that I've met along the way and how they've inspired me and why I believe they should be at the forefront of leading this fight. And it's really what their agenda for how we make our way out of this overdose crisis. And it's changed, right? I mean, the book was written in 2017, published in 2018. I think a lot of it still holds true today. I wish, more people would be doing what we talk about in that book, and if they did, maybe we'd be in a different place than we are right now. But it's really an activist advocate's book at heart. Yeah,
that it is very much. Whenever I give it to somebody, I say just read like the first 2 pages, and like you cannot tell me that your heart is not lit on fire to like do something. Okay, so there is one question that came through, and before I ask, I'm just going to show the winner. Her name is Sandra Sheffin.
All right.
Sandra. All right, I was going to turn the screen around, but I don't remember how to. But I promise, Sandra, you are the winner. You're the random chosen winner. You will get a free copy of the American Fix. Okay, and then, so question was, and we'll do one question and then we can wrap it up, but it said, what do you tell people that may not agree with you on being open and loud about your recovery?
It's totally a personal choice. I mean, like, that is absolutely okay. And there's plenty of people who don't agree with me on that, but that it's my choice. Right? There's nothing that prevents me from being open about my recovery status. And there's no written rule that says that I can't do that. And there's no written rule that somebody has to do it either. So it comes down to personal choice. And it's one of those things where we just kindly agree to disagree.
That is, I can agree. I mean, and that is, at the end of the day, we are our own storytellers. We have the power to own our own story and to speak our own truth. And so, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Thank you for answering that. I think it's so powerful when people speak out, and if people choose not to, then yeah, like you said, that is your own choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, to close it out, if anybody has any questions for you, or maybe they want to learn more about Mobilize or the Voices Project, or just more about you, where should they go?
Sure. Voicesriseup.org or recoveryvoices.org. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you being a part of this conversation tonight. It truly means the world to me, and of course, Rise Together. So thank you for all that you are doing and continuing to keep making a difference.
Thank you all. Talk to you soon.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.